Hitting the go live now button.
All right.
Pulling up the notes. It is Corley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance, weekly scrap number 127. My guest this fine evening is Chad Dailey, Battalion Chief, Kansas City Fire Department, Missouri. He has, let me slide my notes. He has been doing it since 1991. He has been heavily involved in special operations throughout his career, including 20 years as a captain on one of the city's technical rescues. Besides his department, he has had the opportunity to respond to many disasters, including collapses, tornadoes, flooding from hurricanes. He has a passion for teaching. And to be honest, man, I'm trying to melt down the bio of this man into something that's a bite size. And just don't get me wrong. He's got the creds. He's got the paper. He teaches. He is a part owner of Auburn Fireground Training, where he gets to spread his passion. He is a family man. I am lucky to have him on the scrap. So, Chad Dailey, welcome to scrap number 127.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Anything I missed? Anything you would like to add to the intro?
No, there's a lot to cover in 30 years, but that 30 years is why I put myself in these vulnerable positions in front of crowds and people, because it's been a blessed 30 years on busy companies. Not everyone gets to do that. So that's why I keep putting myself out here like this, is I feel an obligation to be able to pass on my experiences. So
that is awesome, man. Audience, get your questions primed and ready for Chad. If you find value in the scrap, you want it to keep going, and I never want to read ad copy here, so this is my ad copy here, is go to the firehousevigilance.com and support it. Kyle Romagus, he is the producer of the scrap. He is hiding in the background. He is looking at all of your comments and your questions that you send. And if you know Kyle, you know he is articulate. You know he is picky. So if you have a good question, he will grab it and he will send it, and your question will get asked. So, all right. With all that being said, get your questions ready. I'm going to read you a few of them. Already we've got David Woodard right out the gate. Revolutionary Fire Taxi Lake said, "Go get them, boys." Dustin Rourke said, "Hey, Chief Moore. What do you say, Doctor?" Joe Gavita said, "Good evening." JP Gardner said, "Through the Lock was a great class in Columbia. Keys to the Job was also a banger last summer in Columbia." And then we already got mom jokes coming. So here we go. All right. All that being said, we got the intros out of the way. I'm going to throw the first question at you. And I want everybody in the audience to know that I always send an email out to the guest and say, hey, what topics would you like to discuss? And the more detailed that they are, for me, I feel like the better the scrap becomes. So, long story short, this was one of the best set of topics I've ever received. So, I want to say that right out the gate. Number one, the free thinking firefighter. Mr. Chad Dailey, you said you wanted to talk about it. Fireground-based decision-making. I'm throwing that at you as the first topic we're discussing. What did you mean by that?
There's a lot of meaning behind that. For me personally, the first thing I go to is the way a department writes their policies and general operating guidelines. Whatever binds a firefighter or helps their decision making. I got to give credit to my department, and I'll be pro and con my department. We all have a love and hate relationship with our own job. I'm fortunate to be able to see other departments as we go out and train and teach. But for one, to create free thinkers, to create firemen who are capable and competent, of course, requires training and good leadership. But to be able to make those decisions on the fireground that are going to actually save a life cannot be written into every policy. So a perfect example of our job, and I'm proud to be able to share it, is that most of our policies at the end of our policies will almost always incorporate and or what's best, or what the company officer or the incident command decides is best, and it basically leaves it out without dictating exactly what pressure to pump or how to perform a rescue or how to drive a fire truck. It will leave it out so that decisions can be made, because every circumstance cannot be foreseen. And then another side of that, for firemen to be free thinkers, I think involves training, and it doesn't matter. And I think even bigger city fire departments than mine, which are small, just big in number, that doesn't make up most of the country. So shut my phone off. So I think we have to incorporate training that allows guys to make these decisions, even though it may not be real life. Our training is as realistic as possible when we force them into this decision making, so that in real life, they know they have the ability to make these decisions. And I'm fortunate to work on a rescue company. I did work on a rescue company until a couple of weeks ago, where we had 6 men responding to a fire, and really very little expectations. Well, big expectations, but on the Fireground, we were able to function at will.
Nice.
And therefore we were able to, to accomplish a lot of things with a good group of guys making good decisions. So that's primarily what I meant by that.
No, I want to dig into that, because do you feel like that is something that came down from above you, or is that an expectation that you set as the captain of that rescue, or where do you think that ability to be, is it autonomous, the word, or is it decision?
Yeah, that ability came through creating a rescue division with no expectations. Early on, when we created rescues, there was no technical aspect to it, so it ended up being a pop truck full of manpower.
Okay.
To the point that we weren't even sure what to put on it, and I was there for the evolution of that. So and again, that's a good thing. Provided you have the right people in place and the right personnel, it's a good thing that we're allowed to do that. And it's worked well for our department. But they created a rescue back then with 5 guys on it, and it used to be an engine or a pump. We call them pumpers, and then all of a sudden one day they're a rescue. So you have a triple engine house back then, where now you have a pumper, a truck, and a rescue. It's like we had to decide what our job was. And for several years, it was a race to get that second hand line.
Right.
And because we didn't know what to do.
No, absolutely.
Through the evolution of it, we realized there's plenty to do, and that for us, a city our size, that second engine, let them get that hand line. They didn't need us doing that. They needed help on the roof. They needed someone doing a full 360. They needed someone jumping through a window or coming through a back door and forcing a door for the engine, so they didn't have to stop and do it, and or assisting a truck company. So it was an evolution over the last 20 plus years as to how our companies operate. But now I'd say the expectation really relies heavily on our rescues. All happen to be in the core, which means they run the highest volume of calls. And the expectation from most of our rescues is to diligently do a genuine search.
Nice. That's the main bar to hit.
I would say, okay. Forcible search.
The default, so to speak.
Critical event too. So
okay. No, someone asked on the flip side. Fire culture asked. Kyle says, or Kyle is bringing up fire culture's question, which is on the flip side of that. Too much leeway leads to varying from policy, a daily occurrence. How do you address this? So is that too much leeway? Go ahead.
Sure. I could see where that would be problematic, and I could see where that could differ from job to job. So I guess my advice in that arena of policy writing, it definitely would have to be dictated by the job and knowing your personnel, their capabilities, for sure. So,
absolutely.
So I have to be careful when I speak, especially when we go teach. That's
Sure.
why our cadre of instructors, we try to keep a group of instructors from multiple size departments so that we can be relevant to everyone and people can call me out. Actually, I called out the New York guys when I first started teaching the Brotherhood instructors. I didn't understand this whole control the door shit. And it's like I was taught, my dad taught me the way to control the door is to put it in the middle of the damn street because it's usually in the way. But, once I questioned it to those guys, they explained it. It's totally different. When you're fighting that house fire 90 floors up, I'd never done it in my life. And you run out the front door, yeah, you might want a front door to close. Never been in that situation. So it definitely is relevant. And I have to be careful, based off what we teach as a company and the advice I give, and know that it's relevant to my 30 years, which has all been in one place.
No, absolutely. Something that we run into even here, when as I'm working with my battalion is, we can have a policy that we follow verbatim, or we can have thinking fire officers, but we can rarely have both where it just meshes with the incident. You know what I'm saying? And so when someone varies from the policy and makes a decision, you have to back it up. You know what I'm saying? You have to back it up, or you can say, screw it, we're just going to follow the policy. You
Yeah,
have to decide which one you want. Go ahead.
absolutely. And I think most jobs, including mine, would know that your bread and butter fire, most people, you have a much higher proficiency rate at getting things done and people knowing their job. When you step outside of that, whatever your norm is, so in most jobs that we teach at throughout all the Midwest, it's going to be your house fire. But when you step outside of that, on our job, and I think most others, and when I talk to guys from other cities, Chicago, Milwaukee, New York, or whatever, those incidents have to be managed, or things will, guys can't operate out.
No.
Not without an incident commander being over it all and someone knowing who's doing what. So
no,
that's
good.
a different thing. And I had to realize that you can't teach to a house fire. You can't teach every skill you teach and everything you speak about. You have to make it relevant to more than just your bread and butter house fire, because it won't always be applicable otherwise.
Beautiful. Okay. Addressing some questions. So first question, most important question. Someone said, Joe Gavita said, no cerveza tonight. This is the beautiful thing I'm having tonight. Don't tell Modelo. It's a Dos Equis salt and lime. So it's in my Yeti. So just letting everybody know.
I think the double oak trumps it.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a guzzler, so I have to be careful. But I wanted to answer that question. And then the next question was, before we get back into our actual, there you go, the actual topics, Chad, always great to hear what you have to say. This comes from J.D. Ducharme. If there was one thing you could change about the modern fire service, what would it be? So this is the first official question from the audience. Well, second, but go ahead.
I think it goes back to touch on something just because it's fresh in my mind, because I'd really have to I've learned to think before I speak, and I'm not given a chance to think before I speak here. So I'm going to first thing is something that we talked about right before we went on the air, and that people coming into the academy, me with 30 years, people with 20 years, people with 1 year. I think a lot of our fire academies aren't meeting the expectations. I expected to have Hell Week in the academy. I expected to come out of that thing like a Navy SEAL or some shit. And so I think expectations are being set lower than what people are showing up with.
Yes.
And I think we can raise the bar in a lot of our academies. I'm not just speaking about mine. We travel around. I talk to other people, but I think the bar can be raised there. And I see other departments that are doing a great job at it. But that would be one thing I think we could focus on in the fire service is we don't need certifications on our walls. We need real firemen teaching real firemen shit in the fire academies.
Let me get my pen. Sorry, hold on.
In our state, you can claim authority having jurisdiction and teach what you want. Not the certifications are bad, and in some states, I know I've been in a part of where they made it work really well. They had a great state fire academy. Everyone goes through it. They teach the same thing. But that's where my mind went with that question.
Dude, 100%, dude. If you could say that louder for those in the back. Is that what they say?
Right.
Someone said like FDTN. Joey Hayes said like FDTN.
Absolutely. Every young person I get, we try to get a hold of them. There's some guys in my job that are equally as motivated and started having like a garage table talk session once every couple months or so. Some other guys are putting together something that we might be able to hold outside of the fire department with recruits while they're in class. And that's one topic we want to touch on, is that figure out how to get outside of your job, because every job has a mixed group of people of interest, medium interest, and zero interest. So they need to find those people, and they need to vet their training. And one of the very best things that we recommend people do is keep a group text of your academy class, stay in touch, commit to go to one class a year. And FDTN is the first place, and I haven't even been there. I just know people who work there, and I've seen a lot of videos and stuff, and I know what they do and what they teach. And I'm like, the best thing you do for your career, being a brand new person in the fire service, is to spend the money and go do your 5-day training camp there.
Nice.
Live fire. I did back in the day. I was able to do. It's been years ago. Writ Under Fire at University of Illinois, and that was probably I didn't learn a lot of new skills, but I was tried beyond what I'd ever been tried before. I was taught to manage air, which I'd never done. I'd taught to buddy breathe, which I'd never done in live smoke. The element of live fire and live smoke they definitely drilled that into me. What a difference that makes.
Beautiful. And learn your own limitations, basically, is what I'm hearing. I mean, just
yeah.
And like you said, it's sad that people go into a fire academy expecting to go to buds. You know what I'm saying, and get to, and to get let down into, oh, this is what I'm doing. Okay,
Right.
that's something. I love the fact you said that and touched on it. Ryan Cummings asks, I'm already getting a ton of audience questions to throw at you, so we're off topic already, which is beautiful. I love it because it's organic. Ryan Cummings said, for a new company officer, what would you expect as a new chief out of them?
Yeah, he's poking me in the ribs. He was my driver.
Okay. I didn't know the background.
I'm a brand new chief.
Okay.
So I've only been a chief for like 3 days, and I actually made my first rounds, and it's like, completely honest, I don't know my expectations. This is a totally different role. I can't tell you what my expectations are. I know what my expectations were as a company officer, but this is a totally different role. I'm not coming in spending 24 hours with every person in my battalion anymore. So, but I do know, as I contemplate it, as I think about it more and more, the one thing I recommend, I will and I do recommend to every company officer is to invest 1 hour a day. And that's of course, coming from me, that's a minimum, but 1 hour a day while you're at work into bettering yourself. And I'm not talking about washing the rig or going to a fire academy or a radio shop or doing CEUs. I'm talking 1 hour a day of something with your company or station-based training to make yourself better.
Nice.
And in order to do that and to get buy-in, I really feel, and that's the advice I would give to a company officer too, that, and he's seen me do this, he knows it, but that this gets set within the first couple hours of your shift. If you wait till lunch to decide to do some training, you've lost the day, in my opinion, in my experience, not opinion, but experience. I think you come in with compassion. Does the guy need to take care of some personal stuff? What does everyone else got going on? And then lay out your expectations. I would like to get this done. Could I get 1 or 2 hours or whatever? And then also you throw it in their court. What would you guys, what could we do to make ourselves better today? What did we do bad last day? We had problems. We had to relay. We never do that.
Right
maybe
on.
we're going to do that today. So that would be my advice. Lay out expectations every day, first thing in the morning, and try to invest 1 hour. I just recently read something, listened to something. It was Kobe Bryant, one of the best. I am not into basketball, but he talks about his success. It was a speech he did. I listened to a lot of motivational stuff when I run, and his was that he started doing extra workouts before high school. I'm talking junior high. He started coming in an hour early. High school, he came in an hour early, stayed an hour late. The janitor would open up for him and practice with him. And later on, he bought this janitor a house, I think. But now he gets into his professional career, and guys like, how do I get that good? And he just looked him in the eye. He's like, you'll never be as good as me. Like, I've been investing an extra hour a day my whole life. You can't catch up. You'll never catch up. So that hour a day makes one hell of a difference.
Love it, man. I absolutely love that. Okay, 2 things. I got a good question coming at you from Kyle. He's highlighted it red, which means it's important. But you're a hand talker, which is good, but you also like to smack your desk, which makes a lot of noise to your computer.
I'll do that.
Just so you know. Yeah. Now, I don't think it's going to stop. Don't get me wrong, because it's natural to you. But that's okay. I'm just giving you a heads up.
Yeah.
This comes from Chief Mo Davis out of Houston. As a new chief, active up close to the incident or in a car to gather thoughts? Reasons, if you don't mind.
That's a good question. I've been working out of class as a chief on and off for years, so I do have a lot of good experience there. And actually, I would be more comfortable speaking to the incident than I would be the managing of a battalion. But I'm absolutely feet on the ground, circling an incident. And we're fortunate to have a safety officer, a district safety officer assigned to us, a driver, whatever you want to call it. But we can use we work together, at will. We create a plan. But I absolutely think I'm better most of the time to have boots on the ground in front where I can be seen, visually seen. I can hear, I can evaluate. I want to have eyes on the fire. And, the fires I'm speaking of are house fires, apartment fires. They're not high rises for the most part. But to Mo's point, though, there's a time I will never forget, 20 years ago, when I was a very young man riding out as a battalion chief, when most probably thought I shouldn't be, but I had to, because the guys that thought I shouldn't be wouldn't do it. So there I am, and I pull up on a 3-story apartment building. I end up with 2 of them going, and I became so overwhelmed in trying to manage that incident, and people coming to me face to face, and everything going on. I'll never forget, I stepped up. It was the first truck on the scene, truck 2. I stepped into the captain's seat there that was looking directly at the 2 apartments, and shut the door. And I had to manage that incident, collect my thoughts, not only collect my thoughts, but just be able to hear the radio, look at everything without being interrupted, and manage to see that. And that's the only time I've done that. So I can see the value in that. But overall, I definitely think I could, in my opinion, and my leadership style, and for me keeping overall accountability, that I would do it from the sidewalk, so to speak.
Up close and personal. Mo Davis said he approved. He said love it. So absolutely. We'll get back to the actual plan topics, but I got one more question coming at you. This one is from Sean Hayes. He wants to know, what were some, and this is the thing about the scrap, you never know what's going to get thrown at you, so I hope you don't mind. Like you said, no. You like to think through your answers. No time for that on the scrap. We just get the raw, what you think. What were some of the basic qualities that you looked for when recruiting interest in the rescue, and tips on honing that culture for current rescue members?
That's a great question, because I've made a lot of mistakes, and I have very little advice to give on that. Because some of the best people I've worked with, some of the best firefighters I've got to become good friends with, and see them excel in the fire service, were people I wouldn't have picked. So I got very little advice on that. Typically, it would be the obvious. I try to reach out. We try to look at, we have seniority bid, and so ultimately we're not supposed to have much control over who would come to that company, but we do what we can. And ultimately, we'd look for someone who has a similar personality and a similar drive. But and even recently, we've got people that just totally blow us away. So I don't think there's a science to vetting what qualities a guy's going to bring to a company, and until you work with them. And a couple of the people that come to mind, I had most senior men telling me that you don't want this person. Oh. And then they would beg for the spot. And because of what I was always taught, to give a man a fair break, don't judge a man off someone else's words, I'd give them that break. And it ended up being some of the best firefighters I ever worked with. Wow. So I really, in my opinion, in my experience, being a company officer over 20 years and 30 years on the job, I have no good barometer for judging who's going to be good. There's the outstanding people that are usually going to be obvious, but even then, that's Class A personalities usually, mm-hmm. the obvious. So even then, that can sometimes be problematic when you get too many Class A personalities, especially 6 to 8 of them on one company. That could be a whole lot of work within itself, versus having a mixture of those personalities. And that goes back to a whole bunch of book shit that I've already flushed out of my brain, taking captains and chiefs test, Maslow's theories, hierarchy, and all that stuff. But there's some truth to that stuff. But yeah, it's very little advice as to how to pick those people out.
Now, let me ask you this, because this really piques my curiosity, which is how much of let me back up and say, I firmly believe one of the principles I believe in the core, like to my core, is that good leaders bring out the best in the people that follow them, right? The best in the people they lead, not the people that follow. The best in the people they lead. And then bad managers, because I refuse to call them leaders, allow those people to sink to the worst version of themselves. So good leaders get the best version of people, and bad managers get the worst version. So what I'm kind of getting at is you have 20 years of experience. So how much of that plays into the fact that you just got the best version of people on repeat?
I think I did. I think so. When I started out, I quickly learned, becoming a 7-year captain on a busy company with all senior men in town with very little experience. They eventually all bid off. It took a few years, but they all left. But I quickly learned that I couldn't judge myself based off their opinions. And I knew what I wanted to be, and I knew what I didn't know. So I came in every day asking for their undivided attention till noon. That was it. We weren't technical at the time. And point being, I turned the focus early in my career. For the first many years, I turned the focus on the Chad Dailey, I feel like. And it wasn't necessarily a company. It was just Chad Dailey, company officer. How do I fill these shoes? So therefore, I came in trying to be the best, educate myself, and be the best company officer I could through skill set, not necessarily managing people. And through doing that for enough years, slowly, I think I gained the confidence and the experience that I was able to evolve that leadership style into having a concern for those on my company.
Right on.
And not having to be so focused on myself and my own skill set and my own disciplines. And I was able to look more broadly at it as a company level, and then actually starting having compassion and being interested in getting involved with other guys' lives and creating a unit that meshes. So it was definitely an evolution, and there probably could have been a better learning curve for me, but I didn't have any military experience. I didn't have anyone teach me. So
it's kind of trial and error, figured it out on your own and made it happen. Absolutely, man. I love it. Okay. Von Brown, I love your question. It is one of the 5 questions, the next 5 questions for firefighters. So hang around and you will see Chad Dailey's answer to it. So moving on, Chad, I don't know if you realize this, but we're 27 minutes in and we've answered exactly one of our planned topics so far.
I don't.
So number 2, pulling up the notes, realistic training. It's worth the effort and the risk. That's your topic. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, so we had, until 2 weeks ago, I was on Rescue 9. We had a page, and we got a lot of followers. I realized the reason why, and I also realized this through our training company, O'Byrne, that we try to provide as realistic training as possible, which sometimes involves showing up 2 days early and putting in a whole lot of work before a student ever shows up. On a company level, sometimes that involves some actual risks for the company officer, training in acquired structures or going out on a limb, creating contacts, knowing where to go. But I'm telling you, to get buy-in from your members to train, the more realistic, the more buy-in you'll have. I realize I've been fortunate to work with some motivated people, but I think it was just this last Thanksgiving, I believe, it's like, hey, strip mall's going vacant across the street, but we'd have to get it today, or it's gone by next day. Like, well, we're not doing nothing after dinner. I'm like, after dinner on Thanksgiving and it's 10 degrees out, are you serious? And that wasn't even my idea. I mean, I threw it out there, and that's another sneaky approach to training. It doesn't always have to be your idea. You can throw the bait out there and see if they bite. And sometimes they won't bite. You might be disappointed, and you have to be prepared for that. But the realistic training, the effort put into it to make it as realistic as possible, and the lessons we've learned by making training realistic have been huge. We just had some guys we train with, and we do this dirty 4-to-1 victim firefighter removal. After an experience we had getting a fireman out of a basement and then going back to the drawing board, trying it again and realizing it wasn't that efficient. Right. We went from a 2-to-1 to 4-to-1, and then this. And then some training partners we have, they blew the backpack on the new G1s completely apart with the technique we taught them. And I'm like, holy cow! But if you didn't train realistically, you're not going to know this stuff.
You're never going to know that, yeah.
And you don't want that stuff to happen on the fireground. You don't want to realize you don't know how to use how to use your saw. That's a perfect example right there. Most of all of our saws You start them every morning, they run great. And I did this more than once. And then I stand back at a scene, I like cut the side of that semi down, it's on fire. And I watch what I think is an incompetent firefighter doing incompetent saw work. So as the know-it-all company officer, I take the saw out of their hand, I go to make the cut, and I'm just as incompetent because I have no compression on that saw. It starts and runs every morning just fine, and it has for the last year, but we never tested it under a load.
Under load.
So there again, if we'd had realistic training and that saw got used in training, we would have identified that. So that's another reason for realistic training. I think it saves lives and makes much more competent firefighters, and you'll get buy-in from the firefighters versus just always burning in a metal box.
Oh, love it, man. I love that. Your evolution of successful searches, incorporating the use of the tick, lessons learned.
That could be an hour topic, but
take as long as you need, brother. I got nowhere to be.
Well, to sum it up, my first 15 years, I didn't make a single grab. Spent most of the time on a company doing searches. The next 15 years, as a company, made a lot of grabs. In the last 5 years, multiple. And I'm not saying this at all to brag, but we made, as a crew, made multiple grabs, and it's all a mindset and training.
That's what I was going to ask. You think it is the mindset and training that has affected the numbers as opposed to just dumb luck or what people are going to say as well? You just got lucky. I'm asking. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. I think I wish my dad was still around to ask him how they did searches. If they searched as thoroughly as we do nowadays, or if they just got lucky, threw a bunch of people in there and stumbled across them also. But I feel like that's the case a lot of times, and not just my job, but a lot of jobs, that the emphasis isn't going on search. And we pulled up to a house the other night, and I threw all my stuff on the dash, like son of a gun. And they're like, "What?" And it's like every single window has fire. They're like, "There's nothing for us to do there. This is no fun. There's not one window or door that we can get in and try to make a grab or do a search." So that's how obsessed we are with the search.
Nice.
Force the door, break the window, get in there, do the search, and we've made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Sure.
In the last multiple years, because that is our mindset, that is our goal. We had one the other night, and this has paid off. And I would recommend this for other jobs. And of course, water on fire is the best thing that can happen at an incident. And it all has to be weighed based off the amount of staffing you have showing up. For us, we have a lot of staffing showing up within seconds of each other. But when I come to the front door, and like I said, as a rescue company, we're professional freelancers, the best job in the world with very little expectation, except to get a search done.
Right.
So when I show up the front door and the first in pumper and truck are standing there, and they're going to have to knock down an entire front porch and an entire front room and a dining room before we go anywhere. Why stand in line behind them? When I can go around the side, come in the back door, and I watch these guys do, force two doors, climb over hoarding conditions, get to the bedroom because of good use of the tick, make a grab, and because they had practiced hauling people out and they had this drag strap in their coat, be able to flip the victim around, put the drag strap into play, and get them out.
Right on.
And that's the evolution of everything. Between the use of the discipline and the education we had to give ourselves with the thermal imaging camera, most people don't know. Well, I say, well, yeah, no, I can comfortably say that from my life throughout the Midwest, that when you don't have a picture on that tick, give it 5 seconds, give it 10 seconds. The other day, third floor of an apartment building, I went to the front, ripped the window open, boom, I had a picture. I was able to search the next 3 apartments, no problem. But when you don't have a picture on a tick, change your elevation, change the atmosphere, or add contrast. And guess what? You're going to get a picture, and you can navigate a whole lot quicker if your environment is zero visibility. So through discipline and using the tick to navigate, mostly to navigate. Yes, we're going to scan floors, but we're using it to navigate. And then the mindset of search, which we'll talk each other up as we walk up to the house. I'm like, hey, I think someone's there. I think someone's there. We're going to make a grab this time. And through practicing it, I mean, anyone that does anything professionally, they never stop practicing until they quit. So if you're done training, quit. get out. I don't know. I don't know where we got this mindset that we never need to practice or evolve or get better. I just don't know where that came from. But there's a lot of people who have that, and I think that needs to be changed also.
Nice. Preach, man. You're preaching, and I love it, man. So I don't want to interrupt you. No. Okay. So, and I want to kind of like catapult right off this. I got questions coming from the audience, but I also want to catapult off this because it kind of ties right into what you're saying. Not to mention just the sheer amount of tick knowledge there. Victim removal, ridding the crew of the drag and drop syndrome.
Yeah. So that ties into what I said. I had a great firefighter. Went to work for another department a few years back, and we had made some of my first grabs. We made several grabs, and we felt good about it. But like anyone who wants to be at the top of their game, we're going to critique ourselves and criticize ourselves. So even though we felt good about it, we're like, nobody saw what really happened. We picked this poor lady up in her bedroom by her wrists and ankles, dragged her 5 feet and dropped her, dragged her 5 feet and dropped her, dragged her 5. I can keep saying that about 10 times, but I won't.
Right.
But that's what we did all the way out, including the concrete stairs on the way down the front porch. I'm like, and we both looked at each other after a couple of those. We're like, we're professional firemen. This is literally our job. I think we can do better at it. So we went back to the station. I got in my bunk with nothing but shorts on and wet out of the shower. I filled the hallway up with chairs. I called my crew up to my office, fully bunked out, and had them get me out. And that was the beginning of that day's training. Hence why everyone calls us squirrels. But a lot.
I was going to ask because there's been a few squirrel comments in the chat.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
But that very same day, he was just my co-captain on the pumper. He made a grab using what he sat and watched us train on, because we went downstairs, we practiced different drags, and then at the end of it, we thought we had made it a little bit better, and we decided, hey, what about this fireman carry thing? No one ever taught me the fireman carry. I always heard about it. I seen it. I kind of know how to do it. So we started doing that, and we figured out it's not real ideal, but it will work in certain cases. And every man on my crew decided that if someone's around $150 and you can identify that, that would be the best if your partner knows how to help you get them up. And that very day, I'll never forget the pumper driver. The guy ran into the front room, went down in the fire, and the pumper driver went and grabbed him. And then it was a few weeks later, we had a fire where I left my partner on 2, fire on the first floor. I left my partner on 2, and I went to 3. And because we had trained on it, I was able to take this lighter weight older gentleman, flip him up on the bed, flip him onto my shoulders. And lesson learned that day, one thing no one taught me: don't walk face forward down the stairs, because it's a long ways to fall when you trip. So turn around and face the stairs and walk backwards down the stairs.
Nice.
But it works really well. And so to sum that up, in the last few years, we've evolved that into a strap, and we've got to use it on call a few times now. And it makes life so much easier, and the confidence level we have now of being able to get someone out. And what spawned this victim drag strap that I mentioned is we had a large patient at the bottom of a set of stairs, probably 250, 275 pounds. I watched 2 crews not be able to do it. And then only because I went to that Rid Under Fire, and my brother and I had trained together on it, and we ended up face to face. We ended up doing it, but it wasn't pretty. It wasn't easy. And we almost tapped out too. So it was just very difficult. So then I started realizing that I need a way. The main problem I have with pulling someone out of a fire is you can't hold on to the wrists and ankles. That hardly ever works in my experience. So when you get around them, that you can't keep a grip. A grip is just so hard to keep. Even if you do the gable grip or whatever, it's very difficult to keep it all the way out of the house or down the stairs, out of the apartment, whatever you're in. And that's where we came up with a strap that would go over your shoulder, in between the 2 layers of your coat, over your shoulder, around your back, and down your sleeve. And so when you get someone, you pull it out of your sleeve, shove your arm through it, and your hands are literally locked together. And is it a hazard? I don't know. I don't feel it a hazard to me that I'm tied to that person. My partner then goes around and he leaves me out as fast as I can, and I embrace the suck. I got to do all the work. I'm the second person in. I'm the one to make that grab. he's the guy to spin them around head first out and set them up.
So the strap actually runs through your bunker coat out through your out
it
through
does. Don't tell NFPA, but yeah.
No, it's beautiful. I love it, man. I want to hear about it.
Now, actually, what typically we start off with webbing and a multitude of other things. You can see a lot of pictures and videos on that Rescue 9 page where we did it, or people can reach out to me because I already tried to get a hold of the victim drag strap guy and unsuccessfully, and see how he went about his business. And
hold on, I want to ask the audience if anybody knows. Post the link in the chat. If anybody knows the link to the Rescue 9, just post it in there so other people listening can find it. Go ahead. Sorry, Chad.
Yeah. No, so we went to. I was passionate enough about it and know how many people don't know what they don't know. They don't know because firemen don't get to do that very often. Most firemen don't get to, but yet that's the ultimate calling, I believe. Right, put out a fire and save a life and pull someone out. So,
1,000%.
In order to do that, we realized how bad we were sucking at it. So when we developed this strap, we did it with webbing to start with. Actually, Josh Webb down in Nashville, him and I taught a class together up around Milwaukee with Ty Rondo, and that's when we first started talking about it. And then Ryan Cummings helped me come up with the idea, and a bunch of other guys on Rescue 9, and we kept evolving it. And we ended up using the victim drag strap. We got extra ones, ordered them, and we put it around our coat, and then the piece of webbing hangs out our wrist in a knot, and all you got to do is grab it, shove your arm through it, and you're good to go. Reach around, grab it if you want, but it definitely changed the way we do business. We went to Morning Pride to try to get them to incorporate it in the gear, and they said it was a great idea, but they were just going to steal it and patent it. So I should go do it myself, but I don't have $30,000, and I just want firemen to be able to do this. And you don't need anything fancy to do it. Although the new gear, the only detriment, you have that little flap, the DRD strap.
DRD back in the back, yeah.
That thing's all rated for vapor barrier and everything, so it would be no problem to incorporate it into the gear. But the way we're doing it now, if you purchase gear that has the vapor barrier, that strap coming out is going to break the vapor barrier because it separates the two by that much. It didn't used to be the fact for our department until we just upgraded to that vapor, putting ourselves in trash bags. So now you got to deal with it.
Nice. Thank you, Matt Sleet, for posting that, the Rescue 9 on there. So, and Smoothbore Cartel brought it up. Same thing that they did with the Reed hood. Exact same thing that went down. Let me see the name. I'm trying to see it. Alex Code asks, ask him about Lockridge making a grab 3 weeks ago with the victim drag strap.
That's the one I just made reference to.
Okay.
He probably asked that a few minutes ago. And that was the most recent one I just made reference to. And honestly, there's lessons to be learned from there. They probably didn't expect I would talk about our lessons learned. They made it halfway out and fell. They got a little quick, got a little excited, and didn't get a good grip, and didn't put their hand all the way through and re-grab it like we train. So, I mean, we're always, like I said, we're always going back critiquing ourselves. How could we have done better?
Right.
The job was fantastic, and they quickly adjusted, adapted, regrouped, and continued with it. But yeah, it's worked multiple times for us.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful.
And,
I like
to the point that any time before I'd use that strap and I'd gotten someone out, I was usually pretty tired and willing to let anyone else finish my search or do my job. Right. And now it's like, I'm ready to go back. Let's go back to work. So it didn't tap me out.
Instead of stumbling around saying, where's rehab?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful, man.
Hey, with that being said, also, I think something, I don't see it very often. I don't hear people doing it. But what we started doing several years ago is when we find a victim, especially a house, whether it's the first, second, third floor, that would weigh in a little bit, but dragging them all the way out isn't always the best thing for the victim. In a house, almost, I never say always, and never say never.
Sure.
But almost always, there's a window in whatever room you're in. So would it be better to shut that door, take out a window, call for a ladder, or just, if it's first floor, like a lot of ours, I call for EMS on the C side, and my incident commander knows what's happening. They know Rescue 9 is getting ready to drop somebody out a window. They better get EMS there because they're going to be laying there when they get there.
Get it on the side.
So, yeah, I think that's something that some people don't consider. You get in a mindset, and if you don't get to do it often, I want to say that because I was there. You go in, you find someone, it's like, I got to take them back out the way I came.
Sure. No.
You don't have time for your mind to think because we don't get to train under that kind of pressure. So,
which it all, like you say, you're just bringing it full circle right back to your realistic reps, just to make it to where you can actually have that in the Rolodex if you want to reference the RPDM and et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
No, it's beautiful, man. I love it. All right, Joe Valentine coming at you says, second question, seen a lot about 2 in, 2 out and how it is crippling our service. Not my thoughts, but it was interesting and intrigued me. The thought is, with politicians not helping our service out and run with skeleton crews, 2 in, 2 out prevents us from doing our jobs. Rescue, offensive attack, etc. Your thoughts on if it is beneficial or not? Hey, I guess we don't hold back. We'll just throw it at you.
Absolutely. So,
what's your thoughts on 2 in, 2 out?
I'm based off the amount of response we have. I'm not affected by the 2 in, 2 out. We have enough people showing up to the scene that has never affected me or my life or my response, to where you're going to have some people not go to work or do their job. I would definitely have an opinion on it. I thought we all swore in to be firemen and go save lives, not stand outside. But
love it.
And I thought we put the public above us. Of course, without undue cowboy risk, but sure. At times it's appropriate. So. My best translation to my life and my experience is RIT and the evolution of RIT on our job. And I'm proud what our job does and what our battalion chiefs are able to do, and the way most of our RIT companies will free think, go to work and do proactive work. But also our battalion chiefs, even though, and I'm sure, and I don't study NFPA standards or recommendations, but I'm sure you're supposed to have some RIT crew standing outside of 4 people or something minimum. Any incident where you have a working fire and crews are going to work. I'm pretty sure that's probably written. I don't know, but so
sounds accurate. Sounds accurate.
For us, we definitely strive to do that. We send that company on the regular alarm, but I'm proud to say that our battalion chiefs can free think, and that if they think it's more important that another line goes to the house next door or gets people out of the bedroom in the house next door or whatever it may be, that they will put those guys to work and whatever is best for the incident and best for the public, as opposed to feel like they're bound to having 4 guys standing outside when there's a critical fireground task that needs done and nobody to do it. And so I think it would be the same for 2 in, 2 out. I think it's good, and that's what you probably want to strive for sure, for our own good. But if you can't do it, then you're lacking manpower, and you got to decide, is it really what's worth it? Are you going to make the grab or not?
Beautiful. My computer just went crazy, and I don't know, but I think I made it stop. I think my laptop is actually touching my keyboard. Okay, I fixed it. Yeah, no doubt. I think I just tried to ruin the scrap. Okay.
Yeah.
What is your PJ Johnson? I think I have an answer for this one, but what is your view on VES operations? We're going to give you a soft toss, so go for it.
Awesome. Oh man, it's so when I mentioned that go back 10, 15 years ago when VES, the acronym showed up, my dad laughed at me. My dad was a 30-year vet, got on in 68, and he laughed at me and didn't understand why we need an acronym to do everything we do on this GD job,
Right.
And, but I give him credit for it. The awareness of that option and the practice of it has definitely influenced my life in the fire service. I will not deny that one bit. That we look at a structure now, and without that coming forefront like it did, I don't know if it would always be such an option for us, to whereas now it is. And I got helmet cam. We use it in our thermal imaging class. I got helmet cam footage of guys seeing victims on the floor after taking a window while they're fighting fire through the front room door. What is everyone just going to stand here while we do this? Or
right?
No, we're going to take windows, scan the room, decide if we're jumping in or not, or go to the next one. see if the door's open or not, decide if they're safe, move to the next one. And I am, and not everyone in our city is that eager to do that, but we do it a lot as a rescue company. And like I said, as be able to decide what we do and where we go on the scene and be given that kind of lenience and that trust. We oftentimes have guys going through the second floor window while they're fighting fire on one. And again, there's a whole lot of things my father told me never to do that I find myself doing, but the fires are different. The time frames are different. The things burning are different. And I trust the guy. We train on it, and I trust that guy to be able to jump through that second floor window and get himself back out without any harm, and unless something catastrophic happened. So I think bin enter search is a great tool. It's worked really well for us. And then you have to vet your information and vet your reason for doing it. I will never forget. This was a great lesson learned for me and a guy on my crew, is that a lady standing in the front yard pointing to the window on the corner of the house. It would be the AD corner, saying somebody's in there and the front room's on fire. So I had two guys going through the back, and I go straight through the front window. Within seconds, I didn't find them. So I do somewhat of a right-hand search back around to the back door. And I run into my guy who came through the back. He was a little eager to get to me because it's pretty certain, based off the person in the front yard, that I was going to have somebody.
Right.
And my partner that day didn't make it through the window with me for whatever reason. So he wanted to be there to help me. That victim was about 6 feet to the opposite side of the door that he came in. So that goes back to training. And we've driven that home now. No matter the urgency, you span out anytime you go through that back door or a front door or a side door. You search within 10 feet of that door, because the probability and the numbers that they're basing on search culture and all these other things. It's like you search it because the information is not always true. My baby. There's a 50% chance that's a dog.
Right.
If you don't know that person.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's beautiful. I have a question. Expanding on VES, this is coming from Kyle Romig, a smoothbore cartel himself. Can you walk me through, and we're going to play, because I know you got 6 guys showing up with you. Can you walk me through how the operation would go down if you only had 2 members to complete the task? Air brake to completion.
Yeah. It's very, very much the way people train on it. The way most training companies are out there doing it for bin enter search. For one, we got to decide if we're going through that window, and like I said, if you, and that's how we'll operate usually. You set the brake, and we work in groups of 2. So we head up there and we decide that we're working our way to the back, and we may decide it's relevant to take out windows, which you got to decide where the fire's at, how urgent it is, and if taking out a window is going to make things worse or not, or if you can simply go through a door.
Right.
But when we do bin enter search, ideally, our plan is to have one person go inside and one person stay at the window. The person goes inside, scans the room with the camera, hands it off if you don't have a camera in every hand, and then one guy goes in, and he may or may not shut the door. It depends on it as needed. But search that room. But also, depending on the conditions, we try to never paint ourselves in. Depending on the conditions, that person may come up with a negative search and call for his partner in, and they may take off to the next room together, knowing where their exit is, knowing they can close the doors on both and go through the wall and still bail out that ladder. It's nothing but sheetrock stopping you from that ladder. So I'd say for the most part, we train the way most of the fire service trains on it. One person in, one person at the window. But then again, if we're really looking for someone, I won't say that we haven't sent one person in the window and that guy with the camera goes on down to the next window, leaves that guy alone, and he goes ahead and does a scan of the next room, because if he comes up negative, he can tell him to go through the wall or come back out and go back in. Beautiful. So that's the free thinking part of it, that without training, without a lot of training.
No, that's what I love. You brought it back full circle to the actual first topic, the free thinking firefighter and Fireground based decision making. And that's what I love, is that it's all tied together. Dirk Janiak wants to know, searching on all fours or tripod position, low to no vis, any preference as for the most effective search technique?
My preference is to walk around with complete visibility.
Nice. No, if you're asking for preference, you got a good answer.
that is the problem with teaching thermal imaging or teaching search, in my opinion. It is so hard to teach. I can teach search where you crawl around, which I will do in a fire. I can teach search where I do the knee slide and hit the wall and every 10 feet come out, which I do in a fire. I can teach the search where I walk around standing up with my flashlight on because it lights up, it illuminates my feet and I can barely see my feet. So I'm gonna duck walk around. So that's what makes it so hard for me to teach a search class, because every 10 feet or every doorway is going to dictate what stance I take for a search. Everyone is different. So for me, when I go through the front door, I usually move to one side or the other, or I become a doormat. And in doing that, a lot of times I will end up passing up companies because I'll take the 10 or 15 seconds to use the thermal imaging camera if it's available. If not, then I turn a flashlight on. I look at my toes. I decide if I get to stay on my feet or not. If I can't see my toes, I turn the light off. That way I don't get hit in the head with a hand line, and I get down. Once I get down, I grab the camera again. Can I see with the camera? If I can't, at this point, it's hands-on. It's hands-on search. And most of the time when it comes down to individual rooms, it's almost always, even if the camera's working, I can search a bedroom faster with my hands than I can a thermal imaging.
With the camera?
Yeah. I will scan the room with it, and I will know what I had, or I will tell my partner what I saw with it. But as for the actual search, and those guys the other night, they put the camera down, they found this person with their hands. You can search a 12 by 12 room, in my opinion, faster with your hands than you can trying to walk around and look in every nook and cranny with the camera to your face. The camera usually is to navigate, and if you're lucky, you find someone on a couch or bed or in the middle of the floor with it, and that's luck.
No, you're not discounting its use, but actually, like, practicality, I get that 100%. A lot of questions coming at you. Andy Stars wants to know, and I'm going to keep it on the VES thing, and we'll come back to JP's. Chief, would you vent for life while you're VESing, especially with little manpower to help you control flow paths?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I still believe in vertical vent, and a perfect example of that. One of my older drivers, John Young, who moved on. He knew if I was I went to the second floor above the fire. I got a lot of confidence in that hand line, and potentially, if I start calling for ladders, that's when my confidence starts to dwindle. And then when I ask for vertical vent, I know that on our job it's already happening. But when I ask for it, that's basically telling those guys, I'm getting really hot and uncomfortable up here.
Give me some lift. I need some lift.
Yes. I'm really doubting my decisions right now.
Right on.
So, and they know that with just those simple words. So, but definitely. And another good experience we had from one of our, Tom Byrne, who we named our company after. I learned a lot from him, and John Tibetan, who also was a battalion chief that died in the line of duty on our job. I learned from both of those guys that if things aren't going well, and this for Tom Byrne, this happened after we had a near line of duty death where an apartment building flashed over front to back, and that guy made it back to work, but barely, after months of recovery and being in a coma for a while. But what he took away from that is he would pull companies out, and for one, along with that Chief Tibetan, make those companies regroup and come up with a good plan, go or no go, and how much time they have and what the plan is. And that's simply all that's needed sometimes, is to coordinate that effort. But also a lot of times I saw what that Chief Byrne would do when he pulled people out, is that he would go ahead and vent that whole structure. And what he was doing was essentially making the unpredictable predictable by giving it all the air at once, letting it light up. And yes, you may be writing off survivable places, but you already backed out and you're in the decision-making process of what we're going to do here. So at this point, you've written off most of those places. So he would back out and potentially take every window out, or let the vertical vent happen, let it light up. It's like, now this is something that seems familiar to me. Now this is something I feel is predictable. Now I'm willing to let these company officers make a hard charge back in here. Beautiful.
JP Gardner wanted to know, what is your go-to hand tool?
For me, after learning good forcible entry from the Brotherhood instructors guys, New York and Canada fellows, and then also learning through the lock and being able to apply it almost every day now. Through the lock has changed the job for me and those that work with me, because of those aspects, forcible entry and through the lock. I use a Max Rex. I know it's not the best tool for forcible entry, but I have a force wedge in my pocket that I can grab with a gloved hand, and I can do a one-man force all day long with it. So I like having the Max Rex. When I first learned through the lock, I thought, man, I'm never going to go through the lock at a fire. Just no way. No way is my job going to let me. No way am I going to decide that it's the thing to do. And I think 2-3 times within the last 6 months, I can tell you I went through the lock at a fire.
Nice.
It was applicable, glass, aluminum glass doors, metal bars all over it, 15 seconds, boom. So that Max Rex.
So do you just like the fat ads?
No, the Maximus Rex, which has the lock puller in it.
Oh, okay.
Right. So therefore, you can't gap too aggressive with it, because I have seen a couple of them break.
Right.
But I've been using mine for like 10 years. I've never broke it, but I know when I see it start to bend that I got to switch to I got to switch to a force wedge potentially.
Okay.
But it's never really limited me other than that, and it gives me the option because I'm a gadget guy and everyone will make fun of me for it. The stuff I have in my pockets and on my belt, but I can't. I tried. I went through an evolution of what I carried, and I carried a Pro Bar forever, but then I started carrying a Rex, and there was too many tools. I had a striking tool, and this, even with my partner having additional tools. So then I went to the Rex tool that had the strap on the back, and that's still a big chunk of steel to carry around. So I finally switched to the Max Rex. I found the happy medium for me. That's what works for me.
Nice.
And in regards to the tools I carry, I also carry a Piglet. Yes, it's a 6-pound. Yes, I'm capable of using an 8-pound. I can use a 10-pound. And yes, I work out. I don't need to work out more, so I can use an 8-pound. But that's it. My job is not forceful entry the whole time I'm at that fire. It's a fraction of my job.
Right on.
So that Piglet 6-pound, there is nothing I've not been able to overcome with it. There's no door I haven't been able to force. Maybe it takes a couple more strikes. But 2 pounds lighter on my waist and several inches shorter on the handle is a whole lot easier when I'm carrying a 250-pound person out of the house, or while I'm spending the next 20 minutes crawling around on my hands and knees. So for me, that's what works.
Beautiful. Checking from Kyle. There's a lot of comments coming at you.
You should mute Kyle.
There's a lot of references to mom jokes. I don't know. I'm not sure where I should chime in. Chad, BJ Breacher, Chad, I saw you at Into the Job and really enjoyed your presentation. In particular, the moments you referenced your father. So there's that as a comment. It's powerful. Yeah, a lot too much to even try to look at. So here's the deal, man. There was like 16 topics that you had actually like sent to me. We're on number 4. Yeah. I'm going to bring up a couple more before I toss it to the books and the questions. Managing a rescue company of 8, controlling and guiding company expectations daily. Because I think this is huge for company officers, regardless of the size of their company. Managing expectations daily.
Yeah, and we kind of already touched on that. But to encompass everyone's motivation, drive, feelings. A guy's in a pinch. You got to be compassionate. You got to get to know your company and your guys. And imagine if you have a crew of 6 and you'd like to speak to each one of them on a personal level for 30 minutes each. That's several hours of your day.
Yes.
So trying to manage that, and that would be the goal. But you need to bring them together. And that takes me the way we're building stations nowadays. These huge stations are unnecessary.
Hey, preach, dude. You're getting into my wheelhouse. I love this. I love this. You can talk all day long.
I'm not happy with those, but I mean, they're comfortable and nice, but it's not helping the fire service. But as for the crew, I think to manage them and to bring them together, that's something, setting those expectations on a daily basis.
Nice.
Every morning, like I said earlier, I think really helps. And then also some kind of rank within that, depending on the department. For us, we have a fire apparatus operator, a driver, and then we also tag in, especially on, on a crew of 4 or 5, maybe it's not as applicable, but for us on a crew of 6, 8 assigned, 6 riding every day, a senior firefighter role, we weigh heavy on that senior firefighter
like a
guy.
formal recognition.
Formal amongst us, yes.
Okay.
That company, yes.
Yes.
Amongst the job, no.
Okay.
Amongst the job, all you have is a captain and a driver. But that senior firefighter, I think, plays a role too.
Dude, I think it's huge. I just don't know if I'm trying to figure out how to make it to where people can recognize it informally, but formally amongst themselves. Does that make sense? What I'm asking?
Right. And for us, it's just the guy with the most time on the job. And I will say that hasn't always worked out the best for us, but that's what we continue to make work. I mean, because imagine if I have a firefighter who, this has happened. He got on with me right out of the academy. He's been 10 years with me. And then I get a 15-year guy who hasn't been able at a busy place. This guy's been with me at a busy place for 10 years. And now I got to tell this guy, listen to what he says.
Right.
But that's all part of it. He's the senior firefighter. This guy took a test and made captain. This guy took a test and made FAO. You have to build and empower those people, and they're never going to live up to it if no one's going to put them in the position to live up to it and empower them and rely on them. Even though you have to expect that you're going to fail. I'm going to fail as a new chief. I guarantee I'm going to fail as a new chief, and I'll own it. I'll own it and rebound from it. But so when you give those expectations, you have to know that they're going to hopefully do their best. If not, they will after you talk to them and they take a second shot at it.
I love talking to you because, like I said, it comes back to that. People excel to the when they're under good leaders, they rise to their best version of themselves, and when they're not, they sink to the lowest version of themselves. So it's really cool, and I mean that as a compliment because I guarantee you get the best version of people that are assigned to your crew, and that's a powerful thing. And I hope you take it as a compliment. What I'm saying. So
yeah, I did.
That's why I smile, because when you say it, like if they can't excel if they're not allowed to excel, and it's just it's such a powerful concept that so many people miss.
And that's where I evolved over the last 5 years or so to taking myself out of training a little bit, which is very hard for me. But I have guys who excel at teaching it now. And I realize that I sometimes I literally have to go to my office and shut the door for me not to be an interruption. let these guys do their thing because they're just as competent as me.
Awesome.
And in the same mindset, we get a brand new guy. And I got 6 guys who maybe don't necessarily want to train every day all day or need to. But yet we got a new guy that does. So we also learned, well, let's divide this up. The new guy doesn't mind training all day. So you got him for 2 hours, you got him for an hour, you got him for an hour, you got him for an hour. And in the meantime, we'll do whatever we got to do around the engine house or whatever. Take care of business otherwise. So.
Okay. So I don't know if you know Sean Seidel or not. I think you've mentioned him already, but he has a question coming at you. And he said, ask Chad about the feelings box. It's a real thing. So I don't know if I'm stepping off into something or not, but
no, you're absolutely good with that.
Okay.
What's there's been an evolution of that. So where that started, at least in my world, where that started was with my dad.
Okay.
My dad had a good reputation on the job, and it was a lot to live up to. But he would tell people when they showed up, he would give them a shoebox. He's like, here's your shoebox. He's like, this is where your feelings go. He's like, I don't care if your daughter needs an abortion. I don't care if your wife's leaving you. I don't give a shit what's going on in your life. This is the best job in the world. And I know my dad had his problems too. Yeah. He went through 3 wives and this and that. So, he lived it, a life of addiction and everything else. So, but he came to work knowing that was the best job, being passionate for that job and having a good time. Put your feelings, put your problems in this box now and put it under your bed is what he'd tell you. Put them under your bed. They're going to be, and the point being, they're going to be there tomorrow. You can't do nothing about it today. So while you're here today, have 24-hour reprieve at this job that we're all passionate about. Don't rain on our 24 hours. Let's all go do this job we're passionate about. Now, with mental health and everything come to light, which probably wasn't much so back then.
Right.
Of course, there has to be sympathy and compassion for your brothers, and I don't think there wasn't back then. I know there wasn't.
Right.
So, but the thought in it is relevant, and we actually recently. So the funny part of that is we recently had job-wide training. What job-wide talking to? I don't know what you call it.
Right.
Like psychologists talk to all of us.
Sensitivity type awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. And his mantra was to quit stacking boxes. The opposite of what we've been teaching. Quit stacking the boxes up.
Right on. Bubble up. Yeah.
But anyway, it's just two different ways of looking at it. He was probably right. I know I was right. I know that I've lived by that, and I put those away and refocus. And it's just a mental. It's a mental ability to do that for anybody to be able to. That's just living life in general.
100%, brother. 100%.
A new page.
Now, I want to be there for anybody who needs me. Don't get me wrong. If their box is overflowing, I want to be there for them. But hey, if you can enjoy this day for a day, put it under the bed and let's go do work. Let's go train and let's go get better. So,
yeah. And
I love it.
One day, I won't use that kind of language on here, but one day I threw that on someone. And he got right in my face and said, "My shoebox is full, MFer." And it's like, all right, then I guess we need to talk.
Let's go have a conversation then. No, 100%. And it's a great tool right there. If they can admit that it's full, then that's a huge step.
Right.
So absolutely. Now I want to pick something real quick because I'm loving this conversation. But you said something that is right in my wheelhouse when people ask me questions about it, and that is this: the modern fire service has made this transition. Like everybody's asking this question, is like, why are we having trouble recruiting volunteer side? Why are we having trouble retaining? Why are we having trouble with we used to have to develop recruitment processes that cut down the number of people coming in. Now we're having to develop recruitment processes that invite people to join us. Right. And my theory, it's just a theory, is we are seeing the result of 20 to 30 years, and it's a ballpark figure, of treating the fire service like a business and a corporation as opposed to a family and a brotherhood. Does that make sense what I'm saying? The building. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I absolutely I think that's a piece of it. And I also think it's just society and generationally the way our country as a whole. I mean, that's a big, broad picture.
Oh, sure.
I think it's the way we have evolved as a country. People, when I came on and when my dad came on, my dad got that job. It was a part-time job. It was a part-time. He made more money laying brick than he did.
No, yeah, you had to have a trade job, some sort.
Right. And then when I got on, it took me 4 years to get on our department, and I was up against 3,000 people every time. And I had a dad on the job who, I don't know, but I think he probably could have maybe helped get me on the first time. Maybe. I don't even know to this day. But
he did.
I didn't come until the fourth year. But you know what he told me? You know what I did for those 4 years? I worked for my dad, and I worked hard. The hardest I ever worked in my life. And I worked on a roofing crew. I worked for a roofing crew. And my dad always told me that the guy doesn't deserve to have a job like this until he's worked for a living.
Oh.
And that was his opinion. And I think that's why maybe if he was able to give me help in the beginning, maybe I didn't get it because he wanted to see if I could work for a living. But and it's nothing against the guys coming on, because I've had great guys work for me.
100%.
Didn't come from blue collar at all.
Absolutely.
They adapted. They've learned how to use tools. They've learned how to be aggressive. But we definitely don't get the blue collar worker. So I think it does take us back a few steps in training to where we need to evolve the fire service. That I've definitely seen that in my lifetime, that the brotherhood, the idea of brotherhood had to be taught, that camaraderie had to be taught, because of the people we have coming in don't come from the military, don't come from a blue collar job. They haven't been, I won't say bullied or harassed, but they haven't been given a hard time in their life.
Right. Earned a spot on a team. I'm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So have they suffered hard times.
Paid dues. Yeah. I don't know the right words, but yeah.
Yeah. They didn't go to World War II. They didn't go to Vietnam. Yes, we have a lot of some of the best guys have done time over in the Middle East, but not to the numbers that we had back then. So I don't know. That's a good question, but I think what you say plays a little bit. It's definitely run like a business, and sometimes management not being in touch with what we're trying to do down here, keeping it a brotherhood. Definitely, I would agree with what you said there.
No, absolutely. Okay. I think that could be a 2-hour scrap on its own. Right. Like everything. We made it to number 5 out of the 16. So here's my deal. You have to agree to come back. So I'm going to commit you to that right now. Okay, done. I really do appreciate that. So I always like to ask, is there a book or books that you think firefighters should be reading? Does not have to be a firefighter book, but just book or books that you think firefighters should read.
So I'm the worst person in the world to ask that. And I'm trying at 53 years old, I'm finally disciplining myself. I've read and I'll tell on myself now, I grew up, I didn't get the help I needed. I had ADD bad, I'm sure, or what, ADHD, I don't know what it was, but therefore, I read and write just fine, but I would never put my nose in a book. The only time I did was to study for a captain's test and a chief's test.
Sure.
I read like Michael Avershaw's It's Your Book, Engine Company, whatever. I can't even remember the front page. The red book, Engine, whatever. I read 2 or 3 books, and they're great. For me, I focus more on daily lives, motivation as a whole, not just the fire service. And then I read lots of fire service, educate myself, and then as much as I can, I see.
I'm losing you. Hold up.
Yep. How about now?
Hold up. I'm waiting to see if you come back. Are you there?
Okay. I'm here.
Motivation. Start from motivation.
Yeah. So my own motivation. You got me?
Yes, I got you. You're good. Okay. Right now, you're good. I'll interrupt you if you're not. Go ahead.
No, I listen to a lot of the Rogan and Dave Goggins and stuff like that, and just try to reset myself on a daily basis and make sure that I'm living for the right reason, the right people, which isn't me at this point in my life. I try to make it not about me, and that's where my motivation and where I seek motivation. And I'm a Christian and a man of God, and there's many people who have helped keep me on somewhat of a path there.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I'm ashamed in that walk because I know it could be better, and I hesitate to even say it. But
join the club,
and I'm not ashamed of my God. So that's what I believe, and that's what I do. I got to say, I give props to Andrew Starnes, and he gives me motivation. The things he writes and does. If you don't follow him, he does some. Besides being a guru on thermal imaging, he says some good motivational stuff, and that's something else I would say. That has gotten me down in the fire service that I've gotten over is all these people with training companies. Kyle would understand it. None of this stuff is new. We may have evolved it and made it applicable and added my own experiences to it, but it's like I feel like we need to lose the attitude. The training company I have is not Chad Dailey. It's O'Byrne Fireground Training, and it's a nonprofit. I hope it's here in 30 years. I hope anybody in the country that has something to share could come teach to it. We'll pay you appropriately, and it's a nonprofit, which makes it easier to do that. But I've experienced pushback from different people out there teaching, and it's like I didn't think anyone owned a certain genre of teaching, forceful entry, man and machine, or elevator, or this or that. I didn't know it would be stepping on toes to share my experiences. And yes, I gained knowledge from these guys teaching it, and I may have even attended their class. But that doesn't mean I haven't spent 20 or 30 years doing it and added my own to it. And I embrace all those people that I've learned from, and would welcome them to teach a class if they're better than me. I would rather, if I could afford it, bring that person in to teach a class instead of me. But sometimes me is all you get.
That's it. I do, and the best part of it is it's like you said, and I love it, man. You're preaching, and I'm gonna say it like you remind me of Andy Starnes when he gets on his when he gets rolling, dude. So I hope you take that again as a compliment because when he preaches, I love it. Do it for the love of the job. Fire Culture said, "I'm gonna hit it." Yes, hell yeah. Everybody's saying hell yeah. I really get a lot. Amen. There's amens coming. Okay.
Wow.
No, 1,000%. I love everything. Where was the one I was gonna read? Chief Dailey's on point. He's worked on the busiest companies in the city, yet he keeps focus on the whole of his duties, no matter if it's suppression, rescue, or EMS. Joshua Everett said, please preach, Chief. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I just want to catch you up on all that.
Thank you.
We have a thing we do. And I'm really sad that we made it to number 5 out of the 16 topics. We're going to do this again. But we have a thing we do on the weekly scrap. It's called the next 5 questions for firefighters. The answers are completely 100% your opinion, and the points are arbitrary and assigned by me. So, are you ready, Chief Chad Dailey, for the next 5 questions for firefighters?
All right.
Here we go. Number 1. What single characteristic makes the difference between a run-of-the-mill firefighter and the top-tier, go-to, badass firefighter?
Dependability in all aspects of it. Yeah.
Expand.
Depend on them to show up. Depend on them to check their rig out. Depend on them to have air in their air bags. Depend on them to mask up in 10 seconds. Depending on them in every aspect of the expectations that you lay out.
No, dude, I can't argue that. I don't know if I've ever had just a one-word answer and explain so easily. So I will give you max points, 100% out the gate. Number 2, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice as a rookie, what would it be?
It would be not to put so much weight in what other people's opinions of myself. I spent a lot of years worrying about whatever other people thought of me. Fortunately, I was able to refocus and continue to refocus, but man, did it weigh heavy on me. Some people that put weight on me were skeptical. Maybe it wasn't a big deal to them. They don't realize it, but it was a big deal to me, and it was difficult to navigate as a young company officer, filling my dad's shoes on a busy company. That would be it.
I love that. All right, number 3. What is your favorite training drill?
I'd say that the thing I love most and love to train on is forcible entry. It's I've gotten really proficient at it. Being able to run a lot of fires, being able to get lots of acquired structures. We did 400 doors a day for 2 weeks down at Katrina. That was like a Disney Wonderland. Yeah, after those 2 weeks, I shook my head and I wondered. It's like, how many people in the fire service have forced this many doors in their life?
Right.
And they're in the hood, so they're fortified doors. I'm like, this was one incredible experience that not many people in the fire service ever would get. And I love training on that. I love passing my experience on from that. And I've still learned from it, to the point to where I wonder now that I'm a chief, at what point do I start losing relevance? Because I still learn every fire I went to by doing hands-on. So I love passing it on. And to the point, I'm going to say it right now. Forcible entry, for one, I will not teach you to force the door and not make you dive inside that door on your belly and search.
Nice.
You will do that even if it's in training. And the second thing is that what happens when you force the door and it won't open? What are you going to do? I've learned multiple things, but you have a refrigerator behind it, you have hoarding conditions behind it, and then a reopening door. No one taught me that. I had to learn on my own. Take it off the hinges, slide it outwards, crack the jam in half, and force it outwards like an outward opening door. No one taught me that. I had to learn the hard way.
Over and over in Katrina.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you this, which is follow-up, not part of the 5 questions, is was the Maximus Rex or was it the Pro Bar at that time?
Max Rex.
Okay. Yeah. Love it. I love that. I will give you max points on your favorite training drill. Number 4, What mistake have you learned the most from in your fire service career?
Man, I tell you what, thermal imaging, they threw that thing in my lap. I read the directions. They said, teach everyone how to use this. So I told them how to put the battery in and turn it on. That was years ago. I probably went for 10 or 15 years, didn't know it had a low sensitivity mode, didn't know the color changed, the temperature gauge changed. I didn't know. I literally had it in my hand at every fire, didn't know. That's how much credibility I gave to it. I would say thermal imaging is the thing I've learned the most of, and I wish I'd have learned early on, because knowing what I know now and the way it enhances fireground operations is huge. Especially, and of course, there was the evolution of thermal imaging. I mean,
Sure.
the first one we got, it was a window breakers at best, but now they're good. They're great.
No, absolutely. And again, we can talk about Andy Starnes all day long.
Yeah.
Chief Starnes. Yeah. All right. So the final question, the only one that survived, but heavy fire, searchable space.
Wait. Did I get max points on the last one?
What mistake have you learned from most? Oh, I don't know if I've ever been put on the spot.
Yeah, it was max points.
Okay. 100% max points. 3 out of 4 that I've said max points on. Heavy fire and searchable space. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES?
First in VES. That's my life. That's what we do. That's what we've been passionate about is search. So my dad's the opposite. He's like the most important guy in the firegrounds on the nozzle. The most fun is on the nozzle. But definitely I like doing the search. I would rather be doing the vent or search. That's what we've trained for. That's what we live for. And the guys that I've worked with over the last several years. So I would definitely take the window myself. And plus, I don't have to get wet.
100%. Everybody, Smoothbore's helped me out. Kyle was helping me out saying the answer is yes on max points. So there it is, man. Max points once again on number 5. Facts. Thank you. 100% across the board. Chad Dailey. The next 5 questions for firefighters, according to Chad Dailey, scored. I think that might be the highest scored.
That was my goal.
I love it, man. I love it. There it is. 127 scraps in the book. If someone wants to get a hold of you to book O'Byrne Fire Training, how do they do that?
O'ByrneFGT@gmail.com. And then they can always hook me up on Facebook Messenger or whatever also.
Beautiful. I'm going to do my housekeeping here. FirehouseVigilance.com. Go there. Shirts, merch, back in stock. Get them. Everything's in but popular hat colors. If you know anything about like shipping and stuff, like you can't get richer than hats. Next up, Orlando Fire Conference coming up. I'm flying out on Thursday. I really hope that the ice storm coming in doesn't delay my flight. If you want to catch a class there are still spots available. If you can get to it, go online, get them. I'm coming home from Orlando, and boom, scrap is coming up on February 28th. Nick Esposito. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be amazing. So far we've had OJ Kaloje, Chad Dailey, and Nick Esposito. So that's an amazing February. No rest for the wicked. As soon as that's over, heading back to Florida because Florida's like my second home for North Florida Fire Expo. If you see me there, get a picture with me. I really mean this, guys. I want to take pictures with everybody who loves the scrap. Today I literally spent like 3 hours getting pictures off my phone onto my computer so I could do a montage of Mutts Don't Scrap. It's coming. I'm hoping to get it done tomorrow. I may not get it done, but that's my plan. If you think the scrap brings value to your life, go support the show, firehousevigilance.com. Please do so. I never want to do ads for the live version. Now then, my favorite part, coins. This one right here means a ton to me. If you followed me for the last week, you know that I am, my son is at OKC Fire. He hired on. He graduated. This is from Chief Richard Kelly. He gave me his actual coin when I met him. The whole thing is when the kid graduated from the academy, they gave him a coin, right? And I said, yeah, son, I got that coin too. And he ran in here and checked it. No, I did not get his coin. Only people that graduate got his coin. I got the one from the chief, which is huge, but it was a big deal. So long story short, Jeremy Sanders, brother, I took one hoodie to Florida last week when it was freaking chilly the whole time I was there. So there are a ton of pictures of me in your hoodie, Crew First Culture. And then finally, let me see if I can pull this out. The big thing on the coins, man, is if you send me the story behind why they are important, man, I really do love the story. And I will try to feature them when there's a story is there. And I don't want to sell anybody short, but 125 years, and I want to get the name of the city right. Boonville Fire Department, 125 years, beautiful coin. And so they sent me the story behind it, and I love to show it off. Here's the deal. Like, when I go to the conferences, I get a stack of coins, and I love them, man. I really do. They're going to go in the flag back there. It's going to fill up. I'm going to have to figure out another way to show them off. But I need the story behind them so that I can talk about the story behind them when I get them. So, all that being said, where am I at? Where's my notes? Thank you, Chad, for putting up with my housekeeping. Show off coins. Richard Kelly got it all covered. Boom, boom, boom. You have to agree to come back on at some point to cover the other 10 topics we didn't even get to.
For sure.
Okay. And then everybody else, remember, mutts don't scrap. I hope the tone stays silent unless it is burning, and stay safe out there.